Morning everybody, it's Nick. Today I wanted to vlog a bit more about trauma actually. So mental health's been on my mind a lot. In fact, the thing in my head for this weekend is to do one of my Let's Cut the Bullshit updates around my observations on my own mental health, what helps, what doesn't help, and some of the things that I think some of the perspectives that we need to broaden actually around mental health. But one of the realizations I think I'm coming to is that we all have trauma in us. It's just it's almost a core part of being a human being. We all have trauma, and I think that trauma has a lot of scary, fearful, and negative associations with it, and it can take various different forms, from very severe neglect, physical, sexual, mental abuse, to bullying, to a certain narrative that you've been told about yourself, to a certain belief system that you've had forced upon you, which may not sit with your core values. And effectively we can live our whole lives in conflict with ourselves. And I know when I am in conflict with myself, it brings an enormous amount of anxiety and stress, and real unhappiness, and I think suffering is not too much of a dramatisation. And one of the things I've noticed particularly of late is that I have some very seemingly on the surface disproportionate responses to what should be perhaps pretty straightforward, pity things that happen. And the problem is that we've all got used to doing this, where we kind of say, pull yourself together, that's not really such a big deal, move on, it's not the end of the world, it could be worse, you're being oversensitive, you're over dramatising it, or there's all kinds of narrative. But at the heart of that narrative, in whatever form it takes, is that the way you are feeling is being invalidated, and you are being encouraged to push it to one side. And I find that the problem with that is you're missing the point. And the best analogy I've got is a leaking roof. In actual fact, I've had 3 leaking roofs over the last 3 months, and in terms of the universe trying to give you some messages, there's something in it, I think. So if I simply keep patching up the consequences, the watermarks on the ceiling or the wall of the leaking roof, but I don't actually find where the water is getting into the roof, I'm always going to have a leaky roof. I'm always going to have a problem that brings, actually I find really stressful, because whenever it rains, you just think, shit. And I think that's a really good analogy for us as human beings. So when things trigger us, when somebody says or acts in a certain way that brings those negative feelings, whether it be fear, anxiety, anger, offense, whatever it is, or when somebody does something, or when something happens, when we're put in a situation that brings any of those feelings that quite frankly feel shit, rather than just effectively trying to plaster over it, trying to stick a plaster in it and go, oh, don't worry about it, you're being silly, or it's not that bad, or whatever, I think we should really look at it, because it's probably got a piece of string that's attached to some trauma that may be so deeply hidden you don't even know what it is. And when people talk about doing the work, I think that's what doing the work is. It's following that chain, and it's digging up and finding that trauma. And the thing is, what I found is, even when I follow the chain and I think I might, it's quite nebulous, and very often I don't recognise it because it's perhaps been so deeply buried that it needs there's so many layers of crap on it. I've got to take all these layers off before I can really get to what's going on. And what's interesting is, as a management consultant, we naturally do this in business all the time. We naturally do what we call classic root cause analysis. So what's really causing the problem? Because we don't want to waste money. We don't want to put the wrong solution in. And if we don't find the proper root cause, we can't put the right solution in. But there's something far more precious than money, and that is time and peace. And we should, I believe, be doing that on ourselves a lot more. Now, I know it's difficult because, firstly, there's 3 really difficult things, I think. One is following the threads, and it takes time and it takes patience. Two is, even when you follow the threads and you think you might have got to something, you've then got to spend the time cleaning, getting rid of the layers, really sitting with this uncomfortable thing and trying to work out what is it, what is being triggered, what is this deep-seated trigger and trauma in me. And the third thing is, when you actually get to what it is, it can be really, really painful. Just to be clear, I'm not a psychologist. I'm not qualified in this area at all. I am talking from my own experiences as a human being. My qualification is my experiences as a human being, and observing the way I react to things that I am sharing in the hope they maybe have helped somebody else. And I have definitely found, even when I've got to this trauma, you have to really take a deep breath, and it can be excruciatingly painful and heartbreaking, and it can bring a great deal of sadness and grief. But like anything, you have to clean a wound before it's able to heal. You have to. And I very much believe in Dr. Edith Eger's approach, which is, part of the healing process is allowing those feelings to flow. So cry until you cannot cry anymore. Absolutely let things out. Really look at it, really clean that wound, really understand it, let your feelings flow. And it is only then, really, that I think any of us can, it's only then I know that I can then start to move forward. Because just like water, if water stagnates, it's horrible and it's smelly and it's toxic and it makes you ill. And if our feelings and our traumas aren't allowed to flow out of us and to see the light of day, I believe that's what they do. Whereas if water is constantly flowing, yeah, it might hit a few rocks and it might be a bit turbulent, but it's clean and it's fresh and it keeps moving. And it doesn't make us ill, which is really the really critical point here. And sometimes it is necessary for us to feel those feelings to be able to move on. I think the trick is not to get stuck. That is the real trick. And Dr. Edith has some really good advice where, rather than saying, why me, we have to move to a point where we can say, so what can we do with this? How can we use this? Which I think is a really healthy thing. What I don't think is healthy is when we invalidate how we feel about something because we think it's too superficial or pissy or doesn't matter. And we push it away, because what we are doing is we're actually pushing away the map that will lead us to some hidden treasure. And actually the trauma is the hidden treasure. And although at first that might seem like, that's not the kind of treasure I want to uncover, it's a really necessary part of our healing process. I think it's a really necessary part of our healing process. So for me, when I have those triggers at the minute, and I'm having a lot at the minute, I don't know whether it's lockdown, whether it's a new sense of self-awareness or what, but I am having a lot. And I don't recognise all of them. I don't recognise all of the triggers, and I don't understand them all yet. But slowly and surely, I just, take a little step each day. And if I feel overwhelmed, I back off. And then I just take a little bit step forward the next day. If I feel overwhelmed, I back off. Rome wasn't built in a day, just step by step, day by day. And if I do uncover something and I want to cry and I want to grieve, I give myself permission to do that. And then what I found that I've done with some of it is that I've then reached out and done something about it. It's been then so obvious to me. This is what I need to do to actually be able to help heal myself. And the solution actually becomes the easy bit, I found. And I think the whole point to this is to say, allow yourself to feel. Be curious, look at why you're responding like that. Dig deep to find what is effectively hidden treasure. Because that trauma tells us what we need to know, what we need to see and what we need to understand. To be able to clean it, to be able to let our feelings flow and to be able to move forward. That, in my very humble, unqualified opinion, is what I am finding very, very useful for me. And this is, just my experience of being a human being and how I'm trying to use it to heal myself. And I hope that could be of help to you. Lots of love. Take care. Bye.